time Ethan understood what love had been asking of him, the moment to answer had already passed. He stood alone in a quiet apartment that still held traces of a life they almost built, replaying conversations he thought would wait. It wasn't heartbreak that unsettled him most, but the calm realization that nothing dramatic had gone wrong. They hadn't failed each other loudly. They had simply missed the right timing by inches, by pauses, by unspoken needs. Some loves don't end with anger or betrayal. Ethan had always believed he was steady, the kind of man who didn't rush into emotions but preferred to let things unfold naturally. In his early 30s, he worked in a mid-sized marketing firm outside Seattle, living a life that felt responsible and contained. He valued independence, routine, and the quiet confidence that came from knowing where he stood. To him, love was something that should fit neatly into an already balanced life, not something that demanded rearranging everything else. Claire entered that balance without force. She was thoughtful, observant, and carried an emotional awareness that often made Ethan pause. She worked as a project coordinator for a nonprofit, a role that reflected her tendency to notice details others overlooked. Claire believed deeply in connection, not just in being present, but in being emotionally available. She asked careful questions, listened fully, and paid attention to the spaces between words. Where Ethan leaned toward patience, Claire leaned toward clarity. They met through mutual friends at a small dinner gathering. Nothing cinematic or rushed. Their conversations flowed easily, built on shared humor and quiet understanding rather than instant sparks. Over time, their relationship developed with comfort and trust, the kind that grows when two people feel safe being themselves. Yet, beneath that ease lived a subtle tension. Claire often sensed moments when Ethan held back, when he chose calm over vulnerability. Ethan, in turn, believed they had time to speak more honestly, time to grow closer. Their relationship unfolded in a way that felt reassuring rather than thrilling. Weekends were spent cooking together, sharing errands, and sitting side by side in comfortable silence. Ethan appreciated how uncomplicated it felt with Claire. She fit into his life without disruption, and he mistook that ease for emotional alignment. To him, stability meant everything was working. Claire noticed the pattern early on. She saw how Ethan showed care through consistency rather than words, how he remembered small preferences but avoided deeper conversations. When she spoke about her hopes or fears, he listened attentively, yet rarely offered the same openness in return. At first, she told herself this was simply his nature, that trust would bring those parts of him forward in time. Small moments began to matter more than either of them expected. Ethan responded with gentle certainty that he cared, that things were good, that there was no need to overthink what already felt solid. He didn't dismiss her, but he didn't meet her there either. Each conversation ended calmly, yet left something unresolved. As months passed, Claire grew more aware of what was missing. She wanted to feel chosen, not just through actions, but through words that made room for shared vulnerability. Ethan, however, believed love was proven by staying, by not walking away when life felt predictable. He didn't recognize that predictability, to Claire, felt like emotional distance. The turning point came quietly. After a long day, Claire told him she felt lonely, even when they were together. The words weren't accusatory. Just Ethan paused, searching for the right response, and offered reassurance without reflection. He promised consistency, not connection. Claire nodded, but something in her expression shifted, a softness giving way to resignation. They didn't argue. there were no raised voices or ultimatums. Instead, there was a gradual pulling back, an emotional retreat that mirrored the silence Ethan had relied on. When Claire eventually said she needed space to understand herself, Ethan agreed, believing it was temporary. He assumed love, once established, could wait. He didn't realize that waiting had already cost him the moment she needed him most. Ethan didn't see himself as emotionally unavailable. In his mind, he was reliable, present, and deeply committed in the ways that mattered. He showed up on time, followed through on promises, and never made Claire feel uncertain about his physical presence. What he failed to recognize was that emotional presence required something riskier. It required naming feelings before they were fully understood, speaking even when certainty wasn't guaranteed. Ethan avoided those moments, not out of indifference, but out of fear of saying the wrong thing. Claire, on the other hand, had spent much of her life learning to articulate her emotions carefully. She believed clarity was a form of care. Each time she expressed a need and felt it gently deflected, she internalized the message that her emotional world was something Ethan didn't know how to hold. She didn't feel rejected outright, but she felt unseen, which carried its own quiet weight. The real turning point wasn't their separation, but what followed. During the space they took apart, Ethan began to feel the absence differently. Without Claire's presence, the apartment felt hollow in ways he hadn't anticipated. He replayed conversations, noticing the moments where she had reached for him, and how often he had responded with calm instead of courage. The realization arrived slowly and without drama. He hadn't lost love through conflict, but through hesitation. By the time Ethan understood what Claire had been asking for all along, she had already begun rebuilding her sense of self elsewhere. The timing of his awareness collided with her need for distance. The clarity came to Ethan without urgency, settling into him like a truth that no longer needed resistance. He didn't reach out immediately. He understood now that realizations did not grant permission, and timing mattered as much as intention. Instead, he allowed himself to sit with what he had learned, acknowledging both the love he felt and the ways he had failed to express it when it could have changed something. Weeks later, when he and Claire spoke again, it was brief and careful. She sounded calmer, steadier, no longer carrying the quiet strain that had once filled their conversations. She told him she had been learning how to trust her own needs without apology. Ethan listened differently this time, not with the hope of repair, but with respect for where she was. When he finally told her, he understood what she had been asking for. She didn't respond with bitterness or relief. She simply thanked him for saying it honestly. After the call ended, Ethan didn't feel devastation. What lingered instead was a reflective stillness. He realized that some relationships are not meant to last, but to teach. Loving Claire had shown him that emotional safety is not created by consistency alone, but by presence, by willingness to step into uncertainty alongside someone else. He carried that understanding forward, knowing it would shape the way he loved again. Claire, too, carried something meaningful from what they had shared. She had learned that asking for more was not a flaw, and that leaving did not erase what had been real. Their relationship hadn't failed because love was absent, but because it arrived at different depths at different times. Some loves don't end with closure wrapped neatly in certainty. They end with quiet acceptance. And sometimes that acceptance is enough to let both people move forward, changed, more aware, and better prepared for what comes next.